Hey everybody, Mature Simmer here. So, welcome back to the VFR Around the World tour. We're going on leg 32 today. So, I'm not going to take more time than I need because this one is a long one. So, let's get going and get things turned on. So, we'll get ignition set to auto. Get our propeller up. Hide our yokes where we can see the instruments a little bit better. Get our fuel selector there, and at this point, get the starter going. Waiting for this to get to about 13. Maybe a little bit higher than that. Go. And then again, we should see it go up to the yellow, but not much more. And then once it gets to 50, so in the meantime, we'll get the pitot on. We'll get our radios going. All right, we are at 50, so we will go there. Haven't taken a look at my engine in a while. So 99%. So the good news is that's doing what it needs. We'll get our instruments on, get our lights on. We'll get this moving along. We'll get our AP master on. We'll go flight plan, menu, import from file. We'll get that in. And we've got our flight plan. Now there are 12 points, but a couple of them are really close together. I don't actually have both in the SayIntentions plan or the tour tuner. They're all within one town, and they're really just different areas within the town. Let's see. Go 2,500 as always, and we'll change that if we need to. I don't know much about the area we're flying over, which is part of why I love this tour. All right, so we're going to get the auto there. We're going to get, again, this set to auto, that on, that set to auto. So that'll start changing things in the cabin. We're going to get our trim more set where we need it. And we're going to get our flaps down to 10 for takeoff. Oh, we did not turn on our EFIS master yet. So we do need that, because that's kind of going to be needed for all of that. Yes, we're up to 60 degrees here already. All right, we can now change this to GPS. And we are set to, well, we're at the point where we can go. So we're going to do that in nav, flight director and nav, because all of this is set now. So let's look at our route. So we'll be starting here, and then we're heading kind of down the coast of France, I guess the western coast, but heading south, and then going inland a little bit over to Lyon and Saint-Exupéry Airport. So that is the journey. Again, as always, not the most direct route, but one that will give us things to enjoy. Alright, we're going to get ourselves in here, 120.1. So we should be set there. Rest ground, November 191 Mike Alpha, requesting VFR at 2500 to Lyon.
November 1 Mike Alpha, climb altitude 2500 feet. On which departure route do you want to proceed?
Let me take a look here as to what we want. We're going to want 25. Oh. Yeah, 25 left. We'd like to proceed straight out departure, runway 25 left. November 191 Mike Alpha.
November 1 Mike Alpha, runway 25 left, winds 200 at Niner, cleared for takeoff. After departure, proceed straight out.
Runway 25 left, cleared for takeoff. After departure, proceed straight out. November 191 Mike Alpha. Alright, easy enough. So, just make sure that we know where we're going. Should be pretty straightforward, I think. Oh, just making sure. Yep. All right. So we are going to head out. And just go down this taxiway. Now, the runway doesn't have much in the way of taxi paths along the way, taxiways. So we need to proceed direct onto the runway. Actually, maybe that's not true. Now that I look at this, although no, I think that's just a roadway. Yeah, that's not a taxiway.
Approaching runway 25 left.
So we'll head over a little bit. Maybe we'll get all the way to the end. We'll see. But we'll get out there. So again, we ask for the VFR because it gives us some tracking in SayIntentions so that we get mileage credit and all that. And then proceed from there. And that's always, you know, a great option. Right. So I think this is good enough. We don't need the full runway. We're not a large aircraft. So we have, as you can see, about 39 nautical miles to the first waypoint. So I will get myself going here. We'll get airborne. And, you know, then we'll be able to do what we need.
On runway 25 left, remaining 8,100 feet.
Yeah, 8,100 feet is certainly enough for this aircraft to take off. We're kind of floating all over the runway here. Alright, so we are at 80. I should be able to now take off. Again, I promised him straight out, so we'll get ourselves on course there. Get our wheels up. Get our flaps up. Alright. And then we've certainly got enough airspeed. And once we're clear of the airport, past the end of the runway, then we shall initiate the autopilot. Alright, so hopefully we won't sink. There we go. Get ourselves climbing. And here we go over the city of Brest, and hopefully we don't have any weird structures that we're going to come upon. So, we should be good. But if we go ahead here... So, this is all in France again. So, similar... Well, actually, I think the last one we did leave out of Switzerland, but... So this is 100% France. 673 nautical miles versus the 400 or so that you're seeing. So again, this is simply, you know, directionally what we have to do to go. We're heading straight south now, out of Guichard. So the narration that we have from the author of these plans: take off from Brest and head south to the Lfrb-Lfll, aka Saint-Pierre Lighthouse, which at 213 feet is among the tallest in the world. It says word, but pretty sure he meant world. So, as a point of interest, I suppose, I did take a look, because it has been probably a year and a half, 2 years that I've had these plans and been working on them. You know, really since, I don't know, leg 20 or so is kind of when I turned this into a weekly series. Before it was kind of, when can I get to it? And it was just taking far, far too long, and I was far, far too interested in seeing what was going to happen and what we'd have available to us. So just zooming out on Navigraph. So we're basically the little point, the little finger of France that points out into the Atlantic Ocean toward the United States. We're basically going straight south to the bottom of that, and then we're going to make a sharp left to go along the coastline heading east and continuing back that way to Waypoint 2. But given the last few legs that we've done, you know, there's been some information that the author shared that basically said, hey, I added all this, you know, this used to be some simple legs, and then when they did a France and Germany world update, I changed it, and, you know, I've made some significant changes. I thought, well, again, I don't know. I could look back and so forth, but I'm thinking the France and the Germany update was a long time ago. You know, they've had a lot of updates in Asia, this, that. You know, I think they did Africa recently, too, things like that. So I'm like, oh, maybe he's updated the plans yet again since I pulled them down. But he is not, which is fine. I think this would be very difficult for someone to go back to, and I'm totally thrilled with what I've seen so far anyway. I don't anticipate things. You know, there are going to be, I'm sure, areas, just like we experienced a couple legs in Russia that really just had 2 waypoints. They were basically kind of fly around a little bit. They still weren't super direct, but, you know, they gave us places to go. People to see, stuff like that. Let me go here, just always like the terrain up so that we don't get surprised. So yes, this is a little bay. You can obviously see land in front of us. So there's you know, kind of the spit that goes out here. It's kind of like, if you think of it as, I'm looking at the map, and it's like a hand that's ready to grip something. Like you're going to go grab a sandwich, and you're looking at it sideways. So this would be the thumb at the bottom.
Your Lfrb-Lfll. let's talk about the Lanveyoc-Poulmic Naval Air Base. Established in 1938, this base has played a crucial role in French naval aviation. It's home to the French Navy's helicopter training school, so if you spot a few choppers buzzing around, don't worry. They're just practicing their moves. The base is also known for its impressive runway that stretches right out toward the Crozon Peninsula. Over the years, it's been a hub for search and rescue missions and maritime patrols.
All right, so let's see if Sarah can get her tour ready. Then she'll stop randomly telling us things, which, you know, she's great. She gives us great information. Sarah, would you please load the VFR TBM Around the World Leg 32 tour?
You got it. We're loading the VFR TBM Around the World Leg 32 tour. Our first stop is the Saint-Pierre Lighthouse, which is about 37 kilometers away. Get ready for some great views and a bit of maritime history.
All right. So, you know, as things go, obviously I need to go ahead and, you know, get these entered in to SayIntentions Tour Tuner. That requires some pre-work before I get in the plane and fly these legs and record these episodes for you. But, you know, with that, just double checking. Okay, yes, you've got data. You've gotten, all right, so it's showing 414 to go. But again, I'm sure we have 660 to go. I think we've probably only, well, I guess we've gone 20 miles, but still. You know, we don't have that, we haven't taken that much off yet, and we're literally flying basically where our distance would stay even, if we're really looking at it. Yeah, I'm getting 0.03 miles or so closer every second at this point, or 0.02 sometimes. You know, that will change as we turn, but then we are going to be heading south for a good bit again. But obviously, yes, I prep these legs. I have to get the information in, so I know where we're going at this point. Now, this would be no different than if I was really a pilot and I was preparing a flight for you. But obviously, I don't want to ruin the experience for those who are watching and just want to follow along and see what's happening. But all I will say is, I don't want to say it's less interesting of a leg, but it just doesn't have spots that are as unique as some of the last few we've had. And again, I think that's going to be normal, as I talked about. I mean, I'm really wondering when we get to places like Africa and stuff. I mean, it may be very similar to Russia. And again, I could be a dumb, misinformed American, which, you know, I'll always say is possible. I do my best to stay a little bit informed, but part of why I'm doing this is, you know, I'm nowhere near enough informed to understand 234 legs around the world and be like, oh yeah, this is what we're going to see here, 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 and here. You know, I have some general highlights of things that I would expect, but Africa is a dark continent for me. Using the sad reference that has existed for a long time. Like, I'm assuming there's not a lot there that we're going to be able to see simply because it tends to be less developed. Again, I may not be super accurate, but a lot of what, you know, we see when we see things over there is, you know, they're cities, sure, and in certain areas, but once you get outside, it's like a lot of other countries, similar to when, you know, I visited China around 2000, and, you know, while Shanghai was beautiful, as soon as you get outside the edge, you know, there's a lot of poverty, there's a lot of other things, because there's just not, there's a very different economic reality in certain places. So it'll be interesting to see. So, you know, but it's still, you know, some of it is just enjoying the view out the window, and seeing the landscape is a big part of VFR flying as well. So Lighthouse is going to be there. So we're closing in on it. Again, 4 miles is my geofence, so I would expect that we're going to see that trigger shortly here. So let me again get ourselves kind of oriented, because we're always flying toward our waypoint, and then we're going to turn left and go along
At our 12
here.
o'clock, about 5 kilometers away, you'll spot the Saint-Pierre Lighthouse. Built in 1835, this lighthouse has been guiding sailors safely along the Brittany coast for nearly 2 centuries. Its striking red and white stripes make it look a bit like a giant candy cane, though I wouldn't recommend licking it. The lighthouse stands at 29 meters tall, and on a clear day, its beam can be seen up to 23 nautical miles away. Local legend has it that the lighthouse keeper once rescued a flock of sheep stranded on a nearby islet during a storm. Talk about going above and beyond the call of duty. This spot is a favorite for maritime photographers and anyone who loves a good sea breeze. Our next stop is Lorient. To get there, we'll need to fly 65 kilometers on a heading of 100.
All right, so we are making our turn about 40 miles, as you heard, 65 kilometers. Sometimes she'll give away where we're going, sometimes she won't. So we're, in essence, going along the coast, but there is a little bit of a inlet here, a bay. It looks like Concamiol is, or Concamiol is a town in you know, right about there through the post. But we're heading to Lorient. You know, we got the info about the bridge. It said 29 meters, and they said it's 213 feet. Meters are normally about 3, you know, like kind of like a yard, but so it's interesting. That doesn't seem, unless I'm way off in my conversion, which I may be. But anyway, here we'll turn east and follow the coast toward the city of Lorient. And that's it. Then there's a comma, and then we go to the next waypoint. So sometimes that's all we get. So a lot of times, as I've talked about along the coast, we had a little bit of this in the last leg where it's like, yeah, I think we're just going, I think it was Trevigo or something like that, that I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure this is just in the flight plan to not just fly over water. And this may be similar, because if we didn't have this, then over our next waypoint, like, we'd be, you know, 10 miles off the coast or something, and you wouldn't be able to enjoy this coastline. As is normal, the whole flight will be here in the recording, so you can see any point you want. Again, I give you the legs as chapters, so if you do want to skip around, if you don't have 3 hours or so, which I think is likely what we're going to be dealing with in a leg of this length. Speaking of, the other thing I haven't done that's going to certainly change things is I've not gone up to our TBM setting. Little fast, so we're going to back this off. I don't want to be red-lined. I want to be close to the red line. But yeah, this will move us at about 10 knots or so, 10 to 15 knots faster, depending on wind and all of that. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm pressing my luck a little bit. It's hard to tell, but yeah, now I'm certainly not right there. But if I do that, that will move us along. We've gone from 215 knots to 225 already. We might speed up a little bit more. You know, but I've seen it get in 229. Sometimes I've seen 231, but I think, again, that has to do with, you know, where the wind is in relation to us. But I will go ahead, step away, and, all right, or mute myself. I'm not necessarily stepping away. I'm sitting here enjoying it as you are. If I feel the need to jump in...
1 Mike Alpha, you're leaving my airspace. Safe flight.
Okay. So, that's just the VFR piece, which is fine. Okay, and then we probably shouldn't hear from ATC other than by mistake. You know, we happen to be set to a frequency that we hit, and then we start hearing other calls or something. But I'll go ahead and mute. You can enjoy the view out the window. Once again, if you're new to the series, that'll show you the distance. This is kind of the view that I've decided to use for that reason. So then anytime if you're hopping around the video, you'll know, oh, in 24.5 miles, they're going to be at the next waypoint, and then you can jump forward appropriately if you'd like to do that and don't really want to see the landscape. So I'll talk to you in a bit. Alright, so we're getting a little closer here. Again, when you hear the sound cut in and out, that's usually me doing something on another screen. Unfortunately, I've not found a way yet to do anything differently that way. So, I'm gonna go ahead and, you know, keep doing that. But basically, at this point, I have the narrative set where I don't have to click over. I can see the back of the SayIntentions in the unlikely chance that we lose.
At our 3 o'clock, about 6 kilometers away, is Lorient, a city with a fascinating aviation twist. During World War II, Lorient was a major German U-boat base, and its massive submarine pens are still visible from the air. But here's something. Lorient is also known for its annual Inter-Celtic Festival, where people from all over the Celtic nations gather for music, dancing, and probably a few questionable fashion choices involving kilts. The city itself was heavily bombed during the war, so much of what you see was rebuilt in the 1950s, giving it a unique mix of old and new architecture. Aviation fans might appreciate that Lorient is home to the Lfrb-Lfll Naval Air Base, which has been operating since 1938 and is still buzzing with military aircraft today.
All right, so now after the comma, then continue on to the bridge across the Loire River at Saint-Nazaire. I think I just have it as Saint-Nazaire. I didn't specifically talk about the bridge. During World War II, Saint-Nazaire was a major base for German U-boats. The bomb-proof submarine pens are still there, just a mile or so west of the bridge, and today serve as a museum. So that is where we're going next. Now, again, a longer leg, 57 nautical miles. We are still skirting the coast, so I know that's, you know, maybe not obvious, but, you know, we're turning a bit here, and then, so I guess we're getting a bit more on the leg. I don't know. He wasn't quite set because we're clearly away from the waypoint, but you know, we're skirting along the coast, obviously a little bit more inland. We're going to cross a little bit of a couple bays, about halfway through, that go in again, but then the land will come back before we get to that point. And again, when we get there, we'll see what we see from the air at Saint-Nazaire. So we should be looking for a bridge, and again, a mile or so west, which will basically be, we'll pass it before we get to the bridge, but she should be talking by then. The pens should be there. I just don't know what bomb-proof submarine pens look like. I assume they're going to be concrete boxes or something. But we'll see. I will talk to you in a bit.
Alpha. You're leaving my airspace.
Alright, so we are here. That would be the bridge. Again, the submarine pen's probably there. Maybe out there somewhere. I mean, could be anywhere here. But, you know, again, this is the west side. So you would think maybe they're... But those wouldn't be bomb-proof. That's the thing. I don't understand the bomb-proof thing.
About 4 kilometers away is Saint-Nazaire, a city that's basically the Swiss Army knife of French engineering. This place is famous for its massive shipyards, where some of the world's largest cruise liners, like the Queen Mary II, were built. During World War II, Saint-Nazaire's submarine base was so tough that even the Allies had a hard time cracking it. So tough, in fact, that it's still standing today and now hosts museums and exhibitions. Aviation fans might appreciate that Saint-Nazaire is also home to a major Airbus facility, where parts of the A380 Super Jumbo were assembled. If you spot a giant ship or a plane wing floating by, don't worry, you're not hallucinating. That's just another day in Saint-Nazaire. Our next stop is Stade de la Beaujoire.
Alright, so 25 miles, not too far, but we're going to follow the river, basically now. The River Nantes, I think. Or no, not the River Nantes. That's the name of the city. So, yes, a few miles inland along the river, you'll find the city of Nantes and the Stade de la Beaujoire, the home of French football, soccer in the U.S. club FC Nantes. So, there's a few of these on the tour. Again, he did a good amount of that in the U.S. too. It's just they're big landmarks, sports stadiums. They're easy to see from the air. So, but not very long, just probably 4 or 5 minutes. We'll be there, and then we do have a longer leg. At that point, we are going to turn and head relatively south for a good long way here. You know, probably approaching 200 miles. So we'll see how that all goes. There's a couple really long legs. The next one is one of them. There's one that's very long, 161 nautical miles, but that's getting toward the end. So we've got a few stretches here where it's just, hey, enjoy what you see. But we got the river out the window right now. Probably going to cross under us shortly. But you still get some beautiful countryside. So I'll see you in a bit.
our 3 o'clock, about 5 kilometers away, is Stade de la Beaujoire. Opened in 1984, this stadium is the home turf for FC Nantes, and it has hosted everything from World Cup matches to epic concerts. The architecture is pretty unique, with its open corners and bright yellow seats, perfect for spotting from the air, or if you're a seagull looking for a prime perch. During the 1998 FIFA World Cup, this stadium saw some nail-biting games, and rumor has it that the crowd's cheers could be heard all the way to the Loire River. If you're into rugby, you might know it also hosted matches for the 2007 Rugby World Cup. So whether you're a sports fan or just appreciate a good wave of Mexican waves, this place has seen its fair share of excitement. Our next stop is Fort Boyard.
Oops, apologize. I did not unmute. I've been talking and talking, all excited, telling you where we're going, telling you how beautiful the yellow seats are and how wonderful it is that they show things. But anyway, so let's say get through the narrative again. Turn south and find the coast again at Fort Boyard, a 19th century Napoleonic sea fort. Be sure to send your drone down for a look around the interior. Again, I don't do that type of thing in the series. It's just flying, getting you there, sharing with you. But obviously, again, the plans are linked, and SayIntentions will, tell you some things too. And the tour tuner will help you enjoy the journey, so you could always do that. And make your own flight, and maybe go ahead and do that if you're into all of that type of thing. But pretty long leg at over 70 miles. It's 77 nautical miles. About 50 of them are going to be over the countryside. The rest, will kind of be over water, because I think the fort is out on an island or an outcropping. I'm not sure. Can't quite see it on the map yet in detail. Wherever it is, we'll get there. Hopefully it'll look pretty good from the air. And I'll talk to you in a bit. Alright, so getting close. I'm guessing the fort's like over here. I mean, I can't imagine it's right in the middle of the water, but maybe it is. So we'll see what it looks like as we get closer. But she should be giving us some information. Yeah, maybe it is right in the middle of the water. That's kind of crazy. Again, this is why we do these journeys. So, hopefully.
At our 1 o'clock, about 6 kilometers away, you'll see Fort Boyard. Probably the only place in France where you can win a game show and get a sunburn at the same time. This fortress was built between 1801 and 1857, originally intended to protect the coast from British naval attacks. But by the time it was finished, its cannons were already outdated.
Yeah, it's out in the middle of nowhere.
Instead, it spent most of its life as a prison, and more recently, as the dramatic set for the famous TV game show, Fort Boyard. Its oval shape and isolated location make it look like a giant stone ship marooned in the sea. If you squint,
Interesting.
you might even imagine pirates plotting their next move from those opernards.
Interesting, for sure. Alright, so she didn't share with us where we're going next. We only have just under 25 miles, a little bit of a slight turn to keep us toward the coast. But at this point, we continue south to the Cordouan Lighthouse, which was built in 1611. And then again, there is a comma for the next waypoint. So we will stop there. You're going to see mainly water out the window. At this point, again, if I try to go to the other window, you see mostly cockpit. You don't see a lot of outside, and yeah, there's a little bit of land, but we're flying over a bit of it anyway. So if you have not liked or subscribed, please consider doing that. It's greatly appreciated. I'll be back in a bit. Alright, so there is the lighthouse. That one's definitely out there. Again, one of those that I'm sure, you know, people live there. They're not
At our 1
going in and
o'clock,
out, but
about 5
maybe.
kilometers away, is the Cordouan Lighthouse. This isn't just any lighthouse. It's often called the Versailles of the Sea because of its grand architecture and royal history. Construction began in 1584 and took nearly 3 decades to complete, with King Henry IV himself ordering its completion. The lighthouse stands 67.5 meters tall and is the oldest lighthouse in France that's still in use today. It's so impressive that it was declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 2021. Sailors have relied on its light for centuries, and legend has it that its keepers used to row out to passing ships to deliver fresh bread. Talk about room service. Our next stop is the Dune of Pilat.
Alright, so 60 nautical miles. Obviously, we've flown a little bit already, so we're down to 59 and a glob here. But as it said, yes, after the comma. Then on south to the Fer du Cap Ferret and the Dune of Pilat. The dune is a famous landmark beach that soars to a height of 360 feet over the shore. So there we go. So this is our furthest point south. It's waypoint 7, if you're keeping track. You know, there's 12 waypoints here again, so we are now officially past the halfway point of waypoints. Don't know if that's necessarily true with the distance. Again, physical distance, 263, 264, and it is increasing right now by 0.01 every second or so. So, you know, maybe we'll be up to 300 again. I don't know that it'll be that much, but we'll see. But yeah, this will probably be 15 minutes or so, and we'll be back at it, seeing what this dune looks like. Alright, so is this the Dune of Pilat? I think. That'll be my call. It is odd. It's like someone dumped a lot of sand there. I guess we'll see what maybe she'll explain what it is. This is not what I was expecting. I was expecting a mound of some sort.
At our 12 o'clock, about 6 kilometers away, is the Dune of Pilat. This isn't just any sand dune, it's the tallest in Europe, standing at a whopping 110 meters high and stretching nearly 3 kilometers long. Formed over thousands of years by the relentless Atlantic winds, it's basically a giant sandcastle that Mother Nature refuses to knock down. Adventurous souls love to paraglide off the top, while others just come to marvel at the endless views of the Atlantic Ocean and the Landes forest. Local legend says that the dune is slowly creeping inland, swallowing up pine trees and even the occasional unlucky picnic. If you ever wanted to see a real-life sand monster, this is probably as close as you'll get. Our next stop is Pont Jacques Chaban-Delmas.
So, that was crazy, but yeah, I guess you can see it seems higher on the back end. So it's like, yeah, the sand is blowing in and just kind of keeps stacking up, and I would think eventually it would stop, but maybe not. Oh, it looks like we're turning in almost as if we were going to land at an airport, but we're not going there, and we're going to obviously keep turning a little bit more. So about 30 miles. So now it is turn northeast to the city of Bordeaux, a port city on the river Garonne, whose mouth is marked by the Cordouan Lighthouse you visited earlier, and hub of the famous wine-growing region. Here you'll find the Pont Jacques Chaban-Delmas, a landmark drawbridge across the Garonne. So Pont is a bridge in French, if you're wondering. And I think Jacques Chaban-Delmas is Jack Chaban-Delmas. It's named after this guy who maybe built it. Don't know. We'll see what she tells us. But hey, we got some good info on that dune. It's no longer as confusing. But, yeah, the things you see around the world. So you don't want to miss an episode here. You never know what we'll come across. But I will talk to you in a bit.
Foxtrot, Bravo, Quebec, Lima, Golf, contact Bordeaux Control on 125.105.
125.105 for Foxtrot, Bravo, Quebec, Lima, Golf. Good day.
At our 5 o'clock, about 6 kilometers away, is the Pont Jacques Chaban-Delmas. This impressive vertical lift bridge is the longest of its kind in Europe, stretching 575 meters across the Garonne River. Opened in 2013, it's named after a former mayor of Bordeaux, who was also a French resistance hero. Talk about a resume. The bridge's central section can rise up to 53 meters to let cruise ships glide underneath, so it's basically Bordeaux's answer to a transformer. At night, the bridge lights up in different colors, making it look like the city decided to throw a disco party just for us. If you ever wanted to see a bridge do a little dance, this is the place. Our next stop is the Abbey Church of Saint-Savin.
All right, so now we've got 2 really long legs. 118 nautical miles for this one, so it's going to take us a good bit of 30 minutes, I'm thinking, to get that far. But you heard again where we're going. Continue on to the northeast across wine country to the Abbey Church of Saint-Savin, a Romanesque complex known for frescoes of Old Testament stories on the central vault of its church. So that is our next stop. Before I step away and before I forget, one of the things I think about is, again, part of why I love this set of flight plans and so forth, like finding the dune and going to it. Like, coming up with something like this, I give props to the individual that put this all together. Because, you know, I've talked about it before. It just has to be like a labor of love of, I'm going to come up with something so interesting. And then more importantly, to think, you know, I'll share it with people. And I'll write this thing up, and it's crazy. But really, really cool. Hope you're enjoying it. I certainly am. Talk to you in a bit.
Foxtrot Yankee Bravo Delta Oscar, contact Limoges Tower on 119.55.
Over to Limoges Tower on 119.55, Hugh Foxtrot Yankee Bravo Delta Oscar.
At our 6 o'clock, about 5 kilometers away, is the Abbey Church of Saint Savin. This UNESCO World Heritage Site is sometimes called the Sistine Chapel of the Romanesque period, and for good reason. Built between the 11th and 12th centuries, it's famous for its absolutely stunning frescoes that cover the entire nave, depicting biblical scenes in vivid color. Legend has it that the monks who painted these masterpieces had to invent scaffolding techniques just to reach the ceiling. Talk about taking your art to new heights. The church itself has survived wars, revolutions, and even a few overly enthusiastic restoration attempts. But those frescoes are still wowing visitors nearly 1,000 years later. If you squint, you might even spot a medieval monk or two in the artwork, looking suspiciously like the abbot who commissioned the whole thing. Our next stop is Stade Geoffroy Guichard.
All right, so hard to see that one because, again, we're not always sure what we're looking for, but, it's a pretty sharp turn. We're not overflying it, so that makes it a bit more challenging. 161 nautical miles. This is the longest leg on the journey. We're 180 away, so as you can see, we're getting close. But yes, turn back to the southeast now for the city of Saint-Étienne and the Stade Geoffroy Guichard, a stadium from the 1930s. And then there's a comma, and then we basically go through where the last two waypoints are, and we're good. But we're headed toward waypoint 10. Again, obviously longer than 30 minutes here, so enjoy the countryside. So I'm guessing that's going to be the Abbey. We're going to turn to the left, so that's why I went back down, because I don't think we're
At our
not
3
flying
o'clock,
through
about 5
there.
kilometers away, is Stade Geoffroy Guichard. Opened in 1931,
the
this stadium
Stade.
is
Never mind.
affectionately nicknamed Le Chaudron, or the Cauldron, and for good reason. It's the home of AS Saint-Etienne, one of France's most storied football clubs, and the atmosphere here on match days is so electric. You might think the fans are trying to power the whole city with their cheers. The stadium has hosted matches for both the FIFA World Cup in 1998 and the UEFA Euro 2016, so it's seen its share of nail-biting drama and questionable referee decisions. If you look closely, you might spot the distinctive green seats, a tribute to the team's colors. And here's something. Some locals believe the stadium brings good luck, which might explain why so many people rub the walls before big games. Our next stop is Lyon.
Okay, it's actually Lyon, but I'm surprised she didn't have that right. Usually she's pretty good with the pronunciation. But yeah, so the last 2 stops or points are there, so again, we'll see them in our flight plan. But if you're using the tour from SayIntentions, you won't have that detail. Basically, so then a short leg northeast will take us to the city of Lyon, the center of which dates back to at least Roman times. The west side of Lyon features both the Metallic Tower, a sort of mini Eiffel Tower finished in 1894, which today is a TV broadcast tower, and the Basilica de Fourvière, a 19th century basilica with 4 octagonal towers and a religious art museum. Head a few miles to the east side of the city, and you'll find the 60,000-seat Parc Olympique Lyonnais, home to the Olympique Lyonnais Football Club. Just east of the city is our destination for this flight, Saint-Exupéry Airport. This airport is named for the famous pioneering French aviator Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, author of Wind, Sand, and Stars and The Little Prince. So, yeah, no red here. We're yellow, so we're going to be at least 500 feet above. But we're getting close, and then once we make the turn at waypoint 11, and she's telling us, because again, all I've got is that we're in Lyon, so we'll see what she shares there, and then we'll kind of let it fly the path and to waypoint 12, and then we'll set up for landing. But I think once we get clear of these mountains, we'll be able to go back down to 2,500 feet. And maybe even 2,000, just so we're appropriately lined up. Alright, so we're getting close here. So we're going to have the metal tower over here in 3.5 miles, and then we're going to have another stadium or something over at the other side of the town.
At our 5 o'clock, about 4 kilometers away, is the city of Lyon. Founded by the Romans in 43 BC as Lugdunum, Lyon has been a crossroads of commerce and culture for centuries. From the air, you can spot the winding Saône and Rhône rivers weaving through the city. And if you squint, you might even see the famous Basilica of Notre-Dame de Fourvière perched on the hilltop. Locals say it watches over the city like a mother hen over her
there's
chick.
the tower.
Lyon is also the
There's
birthplace
the
of
antagonal.
cinema, thanks to the Lumiere brothers, who basically invented the movie industry here in the 1890s. And here's something. The city is so proud of its silk weaving heritage that there are secret passageways called traboules all over the old town, originally used by silk workers to dodge the rain and maybe the occasional tax collector. That brings us to the end of our tour. We've soared over lighthouses, stadiums, sand dunes, and even a fortress or two. Thanks for flying along. It's been a real treat to share these sights with you.
All right, so we are here, and okay, that's not the airport? Now I'm a little confused. No, that is not the airport. That is a different airport. That, I think might be the main Lyon airport, but it's Lima Foxtrot Lima Yankee. It's Lyon Bron. So, yeah, we'll get ourselves slowed down a little bit. We're a few miles away, and we're going to be heading in kind of that direction. So in fact, I am going to do this and then just leave myself on heading. Because yeah, we're gonna get on 17 right, 17 left, and we are very close at this point. Let's get our landing monitor. Alright, so we're gonna put ourselves there and go down. But we definitely want to get closer here. Let's lower the wheels. And that will start to slow us down as well. So we can see we're down 170. You can see the tower there. You know, and we're very close to the airport, so we just really want to kind of get in there. Alright, so let me get myself situated appropriately in the seat. And yeah, we're gonna get these down. And now we're kind of past it. So there we go. Well, we're not past it yet, but... So... I may go for the far runway. We'll see. So yeah, I think that's going to be the smarter call. Otherwise, we're diving down way, way too fast. So we'll get ourselves here and aligned. Because again, we don't need a long runway. We just need... So right now we're too low, according to that. But I'm got enough power in that we can stay up here. Now we're a little high. All right, nice and gentle. Hopefully we can exit here. All right, so we should be able to go there. Get our flaps up. And leave the runway surface. We'll just head toward the terminal. Right, so now...
Approaching runway 35 left.
12183. Oops. Lyon ground. November 1901 Mike Alpha, request taxi to gate.
Approaching runway 35 left.
November 1 Mike Alpha, taxi to apron G stand 15 via Alpha 6 Tango Tango Golf. Good day.
Taxi to apron G stand 15 via Alpha 6 Tango Tango Golf. Alright, I'm not sure if that's where we're going, but we'll just head here. Again, this is more just get somewhere and then we're good to go. So because yeah, this is more the large terminal, but I don't know that there's a great spot other than that. So we'll go over here by this building. I'm sure that will be good enough. And that'll help us. All right. So we're all set there. Get things parked. And get turned off. Again, get to cutoff. And that works everything out. But yeah, one of the longest legs that weren't just crossing water, because again, I don't know that we're going to beat the stuff from the Atlantic. Maybe in the Pacific we will, but there were definitely some lengthy flights getting to Greenland, getting to Iceland, stuff like that. You know, I think we had like 800, 900 nautical miles, but it was just go ahead and fly over water in most cases. But we are done. I know I asked in the center, but sometimes people only get to the end, so if you would be so kind as to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.